All right, welcome to the Kean Athletics Podcast Show. My name is Colby Marshall. I'm sitting here with Alex Lopes, head coach of Kean Men's Lacrosse. Alex, you've had a storied career yourself as a player. You've been with Kean for a few years now as an assistant and have led them to a lot of success in their conference. But I want to get into how you got into lacrosse, growing up and your upbringing and what that was like. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so grew up in Glen Ridge, New Jersey, a few minutes north of campus here. My dad was the president of the youth sports in town and was the president when lacrosse was added as a rec sport in Glen Ridge. And it was essentially, he came home one day, he's like, hey, you're signed up for lacrosse, have fun. So it wasn't exactly something I sought out, but, from the moment I stepped on that field, put a stick in my hand and started playing, it was it was special. He knew it was special. I was very fortunate that once I got to high school, they started a high school program. So my freshman year at Glen Ridge was the first year we had varsity lacrosse, and was fortunate to basically play from day one, and great competition, great experience, and that set me on my path. Found my way to St. Joseph's University, and then ultimately into the coaching world.
Right. And for St. Joe's, you played a lot. I read in the attack and in the midfield. Is that kind of where you started playing in high school?
Yeah, I was always an offensive player, mostly in the attack in high school, played behind the cage at X. I was a facilitator. I wanted to get other guys involved. I was a passer, draw a slide, move it to the next guy. I think my experience, playing football and basketball also, point guard in basketball, quarterback in football, taking those traits of seeing the field and kind of understanding what's happening around you. I think that really translated to the lacrosse field and hopefully some success.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, you talked about success. Coming in as the head coach in your first year, what do you envision for the program? What kind of mark do you want to leave in the coming years?
Yeah, well, I think the important piece is that this program's on an incredible trajectory, that had nothing to do with me. And as you look at the roster that's here, that's in place from Coach Shiner and the previous coaching staffs, we're poised for success and continued growth. So, as we look forward to this year and moving forward, it's just continuing to build on that. We play in an incredibly competitive conference. We're trying to beef up the out-of-conference schedule to maybe a little bit better prepare ourselves for some of those in-conference games. But the pieces are here. I think that's what's important, and we can certainly add to it, and we'll do our best to add to it, over the next couple of years in terms of recruiting and transfer portal and all that stuff. But I'm really excited about the group we have.
Nice. As somebody that might be thinking about coming to Kean, coming out of high school, what would they expect coming to your program, with you at the helm?
Yeah, lacrosse is a game. It's a sport. We want to compete. We want to win games and all that, but it'll never be at the expense of fun. So when we're outside, it's 2 hours and, it's cold right now. So we got to keep guys moving. It's got to be fast paced. It's got to be, the banter kind of, makes things move a little bit faster. So there's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of running around. We got music blasting the whole time. So, we want to have fun. We want guys, who are on the outside looking in. If they come by and see a practice, we want them to look at them and be like, man, I want to be part of that.
Right.
But we got really good kids, and they care deeply about lacrosse. They care deeply about Kean University, and they put their full selves into it. So it's easy to get them to buy in. But that's always going to be a message that comes from me and my coaching staff is, we're gonna get better. We're gonna work hard, but we're gonna have fun.
Nice. As a player, a former player coming in, to a head coaching position, how do you think that will impact, how you're going to, behave and interact as a coach? How do you think, those two things translate and will translate for you?
Yeah, I think the game has changed a lot since I was playing. I graduated St. Joe's in 2009, and I just aged myself. I'm talking, 15 years since the last time I really stepped on a field. But, the rules have changed. The positions have changed a little bit, more platoon and, specialized players as opposed to guys being all over the field in terms of O-mids and D-mids and that kind of stuff. So, but, what hasn't changed is the camaraderie, the locker room, that brotherhood piece that comes with college athletics. And, having been there, done that, I played for teams that won a lot of games and played for teams that didn't win a lot of games. So, not that I've seen it all. I'm still learning. I think having that growth mindset is important as a head coach and as an athlete and everything. But, but being able to draw on experience and, knowing that I've been there before and can put myself in their shoes a little bit, it does allow you to kind of soften and make sure that you're connecting.
Nice. Talk about being here before. Your wife was here at Kean, before at one point.
The real athlete. Yep.
So Kean obviously has a special place in your heart. What does Kean University, itself mean to you?
Yeah, I think I've said it to a couple people on a couple platforms, but it's family. I think again, I met Olivia here. My first stint coaching as an assistant. We were kind of doing grad school together. Not in the same classes, but at the same time. And so I would never have met her if I wasn't at Kean. We got married in the STEM building across the street. And she got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019. The Kean University has been really good to us and to our family. And, when this opportunity came along, it was just, I didn't really even have to ask, like, hey, what do you think? Should I go for this? It was almost like, hey, when are you getting your resume in? So, this is something that we both wanted. Kean's really special to us, and I couldn't be happier to be here.
That has to be a great feeling, like not even having a question about whether you're going to accept that. That's awesome.
Later practice times and stuff like that. So there's starting to be some questions, but that's okay.
Let's talk a little bit about another university, St. Joe's, where you played.
Yeah.
You racked up a lot of points, a lot of assists for St. Joe's. Spending 4 years in Philly, I have to ask, are you did they get you to become a Philadelphia sports fan? Who do you support?
Anything but. I might have been like a Philly, like agnostic to Philly before going to school there. I loathe Philadelphia athletics in every aspect except for St. Joe's basketball. But the Eagles, the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies can all kick rocks as far as I'm concerned. So as a North Jersey guy, Giants fan, Knicks fan, Rangers fan, and Mets fan, I don't think I could be any more anti-Philadelphia sports.
I don't know how they let you survive there for 4 years. Hurts my
They're
heart,
fake
Coach.
tough down there in Philly,
That's funny. Looking ahead to the season, what expectations do you have for your team?
Yeah, I think, I kind of touched on the growth mindset, and I think that first and foremost is a goal every year is just, continuing to get better, daily, weekly, monthly, game to game, whatever it is. We just want to have that tangible result that we see like, hey, we couldn't do this a week ago, but here we are, we're connecting these dots and we see that getting better. So a little bit of coach speak, obviously, but we want to continue to get better, but we also want to kind of set the foundation for what I hope is a very long and tenure for myself of what our expectations are as a program in terms of the way we do things at practice, the way we do things in the classroom. We just want to have when people think about Kean Lacrosse, we want them to think about us positively in every light, academically, in the athletic training room, with the equipment managers, whatever it is. When they talk about Kean Lacrosse, like, oh yeah, those guys do it the right way. So those are the things that we're trying to set. And again, the pieces are there. These are really good kids that you don't really have to coach it that much in terms of those types of things, but it is good to kind of set that tone now and make sure they know that's what the expectation is, moving forward.
Right, that's awesome. I feel like a lot of coaches find it challenging to create not only great players on the field, but great men, off the field and prepare them for life after school. So the fact that you have that in your mind, it speaks a lot about you, and it speaks a lot about what Kean Lacrosse is going to become.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've worked for a lot of, I've been an assistant coach much more than I've been a head coach, and I've worked for, a lot of really special people. And I think that's the one common theme from every successful coach that I've been around is just, character matters. You want to win games, but you want to win games with good people. And, we're fortunate we got good people here.
Awesome. So what would you say is your favorite aspect of the game of lacrosse?
The speed of the game. They added a shot clock, a few years back, which has really added an element to the game of just understanding that you have to be dangerous. When the ball gets in your stick, wherever it is on the field, your team has to be dangerous, during that shot clock period. So the game has gotten faster. It's also gotten bigger and stronger and faster along with it. It's exciting just to see, and I kind of said it before, right? Like the game's changed a lot since I was playing, but the speed just continues to really be the one thing that just keeps getting faster and faster and faster as players get better and better and better. But what I truly love about the game is that there's no like cookie cutter lacrosse player. You know, you can't just like look at a lineup and be like, that's a lacrosse player, that's a lacrosse player, that's a lacrosse player. You know, we got guys that are, you know, on the shorter side, taller side, you know, chiseled, thinner, you know, that could be equally successful. And I think that's what makes, you know, lacrosse a little bit special, is that you have guys that can, you know, I think of a player, Joe Sankey, who played at UNC at, you know, 5'5", 5'6", whatever he is, and was an all-time leading scorer down there. You know, I'm not sure there's many sports like that, you know, like baseball's got the Jose Altuves of the world, but how many? You know, like in lacrosse, I could probably rattle off 15 names for you of guys that you would never expect to be as successful as they were in their field.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Kind of like soccer too, I guess.
Yeah,
Soccer,
It's just like when you have a helmet sport and the physical aspect as well, just knowing that there's guys that, you know, can protect themselves at that size and, you know, not worry about, you know, too much of that. You know, that's what makes it pretty cool.
Nice. How would you describe your coaching style?
Yeah, I think I said it before, right? We want it to be fun. We want it to be upbeat. You know, my style is, you know, we're gonna give you the tools to be successful, but it's up to you to make it happen. You know, we preach that we're a meritocracy. You know, so yes, the best players are going to play, but at the same time, we're going to give everyone a chance. So our fall and off-season non-traditional training is equal reps. You know, so whether you're a returning All-American, which we have this year in Dylan Johnson, or, you know, a freshman who's here for the first time, like those guys got the same reps in the fall and equal opportunity to say, like, I deserve to play, I deserve minutes. That's still true now. You know, we're preparing for our season opener on Saturday. You know, but the first hour of our practice is everybody getting touches, everybody running around, and making sure that they have an opportunity to feel like they were given a chance. So I want players to feel like they're fully involved and they belong. You know, whether you're the first guy on the depth chart or the 44th guy on the depth chart. You know, like you're seen, you're wanted, you matter to us, and you know that's being a little hypocritical if you don't give them a chance every day in practice to prove that, you know, that they deserve minutes. So I think what I've learned is that culture issues come from not giving those opportunities, and you know, culture matters a lot when you talk about recruiting and retention and just success of a program. So I think that's one thing that we can pretty easily do day in and day out to make sure that we're making everyone feel like they're a full member of the program.
That's great. It sounds like you're building a great foundation, Coach. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. You got it.